Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Company of Heroes Advanced Powers AI tournament match. I'm mostly just hosting this match for fun. I'm gonna be doing this on a weekly basis until we have a winner. The bracket is gonna be this right here on the screen. And our first match will be OKW versus USF. Next week's match will be British Forces versus whoever wins this week's match. So, without further ado, everything is already pre-set up. I will go into game now. So how this is going to work is that all matches are going to be held on Red Ball Express. This is going to be a best 2 out of 3. Oh, a best out of 3 match with switching sides between matches. So, AI will be set to expert. High resources and fixed locations are set. I will always be overcommando to decrease my presence on the map as much as possible. And without further ado, let's begin. So, while we're waiting for the game to load, let me explain a bit about advanced powers for those who do not know the mod. What it does is that it overhauls every faction in the game and changes the units that they have available. It also changes the way that you want to tech up, mainly because it adds more branches to a tech option. You can go into more types of specializations and gain access to new units or new upgrades. So in this case, we have Overcommando list and the Americans, once again. But everything they have has been overhauled and made a lot more chaotic. If you plan on running this mod, I'd say turn down the settings, otherwise your PC will absolutely hate you. As you can see in the menu, we already have some new units and new upgrades. Well, not necessarily new units, just new upgrades. This would be a new unit, these would be the upgrades. But for now, I will be reducing my presence as much as possible. And with that, let's get into the match. So right off the bat, OKW has an immediate advantage over the US as, well, they all have automatic weapons. US only has Garands or M1 carbines. In advanced powers, well, the Sturm Pioneers and the normal Pioneers of the... Well, for now, let's just focus on the Sturm Pioneers. They get a massive upgrade to their STGs, as you'll soon see once they engage in combat. Oh, and we already have a Storm Officer squad out, and some Panzer Fusiliers. I don't think they've changed the Panzer Fusiliers too much unless you decide to go into upgrades for them. Similar to the Storm Officer, Panzer Fusiliers do get different upgrades. So most of the territory in front of the headquarters has been secured, probably same situation for the Americans. I hear that they have a vehicle on the way as well. I see that one of OKW has decided to go Luftwaffe with this new Kubelwagen. And the Luft Pioneer squads. So, Bit of detail about the Luftwaffe if you decide to spec into it. Units are a lot more expensive, but they have a lot more upgrades and are generally just better statted. Over here, we already see Sturms in combat, and you can see the new STGs just shredding everything. It's like incendiary rounds for an MG42. It just absolutely demolishes everything in front of them. Aside, the Americans are trying to hold their ground, but they are just kind of out in the open and being gunned down in cold blood. Not much they can do here. They'll have to cede some ground. Germans pushing up, but the Americans are trying to get some sneaky backcaps on mid and a potential push near top. Ooh, but the Germans are probably able to hold it. Americans just keep on sending more jeeps up over here. But that is not good for them. Oh, already got the Panzerfaust out. Yeah, that is cavalry riflemen already being pushed back as well. Wait, no, those are the Marines. Never mind, I spoke wrong. Americans are already sending in Marines. Somebody's already spec'd into Marines. And Americans seem to have been able to uncap the top point, along with the munitions point around mid. But the Germans certainly do have an advantage early game due to their superior weapons. Americans are being pushed back right now. Though they do have a mortar up, perhaps that might allow them to take some more ground. Topside is being assaulted by a single squad, but the Hydra seems to be trying to drive them off. Mid is also not looking very good. And down here, the Germans are already pushing in pretty hard, pretty deep. Ooh. Can the Americans make a comeback here? I see another assault coming up on this side. Trying to get that fuel. Perhaps cut it off at the very least. But that is not going to be happening with those two squads. That rifle squad might just die here. Might outright die if they don't pull it back. And there it goes. Major's just going to try his best, but ooh. There goes some rear etchies as well. Americans are seeming to blob up here a bit as well, perhaps preemptively before they assault. But they have to take out this Hydra before it takes out, I believe this is an LVT? Yes, it is. Okay, they push back the Hydra. But the Germans have regained the upper hand up top. But that is where a good chunk of their forces are. Mid is left a bit unguarded. If the Americans can push in like they are doing right now, Germans will have to route forces. Oh, but what's this? We have some Falchies in the back trying to backcap and distract. LVT, I think I just saw is... No, that is not an LVT. That is a Ronson. Ooh, that might be the break that the Americans need in order to push mid again. Down and bot, nothing is really going on. But the Germans have managed to flank with some chem pioneers. I do not like the look of that, mainly because my game might crash due to the particle effects of chem pioneers, despite me preemptively turning down graphic settings. But anyways, Major is alone in his assault, it seems like, against this Kugelwagen, which is equipped with an automatic grenade launcher. That Major is screwed. Ooh, and the Chems Pioneers are pushing back light armor pretty effectively. Ronson has done a good chunk of cleanup as the Americans have been able to get an MG right on that munitions point. But will that be enough? That is the question. I see a squad of Retchis just pushing up top. Don't know if they're going to be able to even do anything. But, I mean, they're trying their best. Down bot. Is that just a Sherman? That is a normal Sherman. LVT is attempting to... Oh, wait, no, this one LVT is very much stranded. Will the Americans be able to recover it? Who knows? But they are being pushed back hard on bot. No less thanks to those chem pioneers. Ronson is being screwed over up top by AT. It might die here to the Panzerbusch of the Luftlanders. Question is, will it? If those Luftlanders can get another shot, no, they are forced to retreat. And the Americans might be able to make a comeback top. Those men are just decide to jump out, repair their tank right at the front. Oh, mid has some action going on. Americans have been able to perhaps sway the tide of battle in their favor. They have taken a good chunk of mid. Germans are grouping up around here. But back here, they have gotten a Pantotherm up and some MGs to hold the line. Who knows? Perhaps mid was all the Americans needed to push. Oh, but there goes the LVT. Will those Marines do anything? The Marine Assault Squad. They are holding out on mid. Ooh, but those smoke grenades are gonna absolutely destroy that Marine squad. They are not getting through that alive. Oof. Lieutenant is on his own up here, just trying to cap. But the Americans have called in an airstrike. A strafing run, a P-47 strafing run. And even more artillery. LVT is stranded and killed in the back by the Hydras. But those things aren't going to do much against the infantry. Infantry are pushing up. Will the Germans have a good enough response? They just pulled back their automatic grenade launchers. Down bot, the Americans have also been making some progress. But most of the progress is around this one munitions point. The Americans desperately want it. Oh, the Hydra's not set up. The Ronson is going to absolutely shred them. Oh, but what's that? Ronson just took a huge hit from something. Most likely more Hydras. No, it's the Pantotherm. Pantotherm is picking off that Ronson, forcing it to retreat. Americans have made a massive comeback compared to the beginning. But who knows if the Germans might be able to do the same. Americans aren't really pushing the bot side of the map. Instead, again, they're just focusing around the mid and perhaps a bit of top. That is a Sherman pushing up. Will it be able to... Oh, Hydra was not aiming at the Sherman. It was aiming at 50 cal instead. Hydra is probably screwed here. Yeah, no, it's dead. The Germans aren't using this Hetzer for some reason, though. Perhaps they have a strategy that is too big brain for me to figure out. The Americans are just absolutely overwhelming the Germans with their numbers right now. Just spamming out munition abilities. The Germans are trying to retake some ground top, though. But I don't know if that's enough. The Americans are just pushing on with their momentum. Oh, Germans are just trying their best to repair this Puma. On the front line, no less. But it is being overrun by infantry right now. Oh, and there it goes. But the Germans might be able to hold if they group around the Flax Tower. That thing... The Americans have just called in naval artillery near the top, just trying to break this machine gun nest, and the Pantotherm. Oh, and that smoothbore Puma was hit hard by artillery, though. They need to bring some anti-tank for this Vulcan over here. It's going to absolutely annihilate all their infantry if they don't bring anything there. Up top, the Americans have taken back the grounds that the Germans tried to retake. Oh, the battlefield has already changed so much. A good chunk of the hedgerows have been just run over by now. Up goes the Ronson, is trying to push through. It's taking a bit of damage, but for the most part, he could just shrug it off. Oh shit! Engineers trying to push their way into the back with another Vulcan Sherman just mowing down this one grenadier squad. Well, automatic grenadier squad. And the engineers have made it to the chem mortar. That chem mortar is absolutely hating its life right now. But what's this? The Americans have chosen to just ditch their vehicle and just push out. Grease guns blazing. What chads? Balls of steel. Being challenged by the singular officer with his pistol and a couple stern pioneers. I don't think that's gonna do much, but my props to those guys. Meanwhile, was this the play all along? Just the Americans having the Germans repair their own vehicles for them to not have to put in that effort? Oh my goodness. Germans are just fixing it, no questions asked. Oh, but the vehicle crew was driven back hard. Germans have managed to take the Vulcan Sherman away from the Americans. But despite this, I think the Americans have way too much momentum right now. They're just pushing through so hard. Germans have made a massive push up top, though, with a Panther to back them up. Americans don't have a very heavy AT right now to help them. Oh, and the Loosh. The Loosh is going to absolutely shred that AA. Oh, and look at it go. Look at it go. Especially with that MG it has equipped. Oh, and there goes American Shermans. They might be pushed off of mid with this push by the Wunderluftwaffe player. You do not want to be anybody caught in that line of fire right now. That a sniper squad? Those riflemen are absolutely screwed. Americans just parking an ambulance there, but to no avail. The Lush has spotted where the Americans are grouping up their forces, acting as a repair point. But the Americans do have a lot of pressure near the bot side of the map. They are pushing up hard. Americans have pushed Ronson to the back of the lines here. It is being hit by base flak, but it doesn't seem to be able to do much. Ronson is committed to just absolutely killing that headquarters. Meanwhile, over here, everything is broken down to chaos. The Germans seem to be unable to push up. Americans have called in something right on top of that hetzer. The question is, what is it? Oh, and it seems to be just a major artillery strike. But nonetheless, it kills the hetzer. Have the Americans stolen a Hydra as well? Oh my goodness. No, that's a Patriot system. The Americans have a Patriot set up. Germans can't advance too hard right now. Germans do not have many ways to counter it right now on the field. Compared to the Americans, the Germans barely have any vehicles. The Americans just absolutely swarming the Germans with their mechanized infantry and vehicles. Germans are being pushed back hard. They're probably going to have to regroup around that forward square headquarters. The now new forward square headquarters, I should say. Oh, brave. They're sending in Pumas to try and individually take out those Shermans. But I don't think that's going to do much. What the hell did the Americans drop here? Wait, no, unless that was Chem being dropped. It could have been this Chem Stukafust. Just, oh my goodness. The Germans are trying their best to defend themselves, just holding off the American horde of vehicles, but it's just not happening. The American horde might be too much. They're just outproducing anything that the Germans can try and kill. And it doesn't help that the Germans are also currently starved on resources right now. And all their team weapons are going down. That minigun team is trying to just just wrecking havoc on any infantry that tries to go up against them. That Puma ain't gonna do much, honestly. Unless it's equipped with a laser machine gun. But I think it's being flanked right now by anti-tank. Meanwhile, the Americans are still pushing hard down bot. The Germans just can't recover from bot side. This might just be a pincer maneuver to finish it off. That Schwer headquarters is trying its best to defend itself, but it's being whittled down by a major and his rocket launchers. Oh, Major is forced to retreat, but to no avail, he falls along with his bazooka. We do have a Scot up at the front line, just firing already over and over again. But I don't think that's gonna do much. Oh, those medics are hit by artillery hard. Meanwhile, Radio Man squad is pushing up, trying to finish them off. Germans don't really have much anti-infantry around this area, aside from maybe the Schwer, but that Schwer is not focused right now. It is focused on a Sherman instead. Is that a jumbo? That is indeed a jumbo. Americans are pushing up hard, and down goes the Schwer. Everything the Germans have is grouped up right here. If this position falls, that is probably just GG for the Germans. Pantotherm is taking small arms fire and mortar fire. Mortar fire does manage to kill it. I think the Americans have this in the bag. They can't really recover once they're pushed back this hard. Nonetheless, the game isn't over until everybody's killed. This might just be a clean sweep for the Americans. Ooh, Raketin just absolutely destroys that Sherman that tries to push up. Despite this, the Americans still need to push up. Despite their massive lead right now and all their momentum, they still need to push up with combined arms if they want to take out everything. Ooh, I think that's naval artillery being dropped on that position there. There goes the Panther. Probably the last thing that was assisting the Germans in really holding the position. Now all Germans really have is a Hetzer for their vehicles. Everything else seems to be infantry based. Oh, the Americans, balls of steel, just stealing a Hydra right off the front and then just turning it on the Germans. That Hydra might fall again though. It's taking, yeah, no, it took way too much concentrated fire. Ooh, but the Germans have been able to get Wunderkampfers. Those things are expensive as hell to replace. But if they can abuse it, those Wunderkampfers might be able to turn the tide, at least against infantry. Then the Germans need to still figure out their anti-vehicle situation. Vehicle crews just pushing up to the front lines. The Americans don't know what to do with them. They're just using them for their SMGs at this point. They're just pumping out men like mad. Artillery as well, just spamming mortars onto the German defensive positions. I don't think the Germans can even hold out much longer. But who knows? Germans have quite a lot of anti-tank over here that the Americans will have to figure out. Ooh, and I think that was a time over target barrage. The Americans just dropped. Ooh. And that or naval artillery. Unless it's railway by the Germans. I cannot tell which side is firing at which side right now when it comes to artillery. It is just so thick. Oh, the Americans already have Pershings up, pushing in on the flanks, pincering the Germans. Meanwhile, the Germans have seemed to be able to retake some ground. Air Raider squad over here is trying to push up, but they don't really have good anti-tank. They need to be supported, which the AI is not doing at all. Yikes. The Americans might lose their Pershing here, though, since it has pushed up way too far. Indeed, they were a bit too aggressive with that Pershing play. But the German defense just can't hold up. The defenders have just been whittled by waves and waves of US forces. What can they do? Not much, to be honest. Half track is being pushed up hard right now. But that thing might fall to small arms fire here. I'm gonna need a sip of water. I've been commentating this entire time. Oh boy. And there goes the half track. Meanwhile, the Americans are just slowly, very ever so slowly, whittling down this Panther term from range. Artillery has scattered the Germans, anything that was left over here. And it seems like a strafing run has also been called in. Americans have called in something on this side. Probably something big. No, it is just another major artillery strike. But the Americans have succeeded in taking out the Panther term. P-47s are ruthless with their rockets right now, going down on those HQ buildings. Oh, artillery has also been called in this sector. What is going to drop on those poor Germans? Oh, another major strike. That hurts. Americans have brought up their artillery to the front. Pack howitzers have moved up to start artillerying their forward HQs. All these battle group HQs are going to fall to artillery if the Germans do not do anything about it. But what can they do? The Americans have jumbos and Pershings pushed up. Jumbos, Pershings, just Ronsons, maybe. This Pershing has a minigun strapped to it. What are the Germans supposed to do here? That's an M6A1 just pushing up, going ham. It's just eating those rockets. Actually, it might die here, actually. Never mind. Oh, but the Americans have called in another strike on this HQ, scattering any engineers around the area. Germans are forced to call in Fallschirmjägers as reinforcements. Probably because they don't have anything left to call in. Americans are pushing up very hard with their pressure. I'm surprised they haven't been able to get a pincer maneuver going on this bot side with all the momentum they had most of the game there. Oh, Germans have gotten another Wunder Kampfer squad up. Perhaps if they can get the Super Shreks on those things, they might be able to push back the American armor. But the Americans have more armor than the Germans have infantry at this point, at least squad wise. All the Germans have for vehicles is this singular Puma. But that Puma is doing some work, at least when it comes to damage. Americans have stolen several Hydras and are making good use of them, just bombarding these buildings over and over again. What have they called in here? Is it another artillery strike? Most definitely. Oh, game is starting to really chug right now. And I really wonder why. Oh, this is the last pocket of Germans. God, they can't really hold out there for much longer. Wunderkämpfers have managed to kill the stolen Hydra crew, but I don't think they can really do much else. Oof. Americans have managed to kill the flags outside of HQs. They are going ham on my structure, but that means nothing. I am just here to as an observer. Americans pushing up hard now, starting to go to town on first AI's HQ. They are seemingly spamming out units, but to no avail. These are armored vehicles. Your STGs do nothing against this much armor. And these HQs over here, they've just been eating so many pack howitzer rounds and mortars. Well, for a good chunk of the game, for like the last 5 to 10 minutes, they've just been eating artillery. I'm wondering if the Americans will call in their biggest strikes, though, right on top of there. They certainly have the vision. Oh, have I spoken too soon? They have called in something. A lot of things, actually. Oh my. I think that is naval artillery dropping. Naval and the Major's artillery strike. Nope, that was just two major strikes. Or 105s. One of the two. But either way, the artillery is able to clean up those buildings quite handily. On this side, everything is pretty much lost. Americans have this in the bag. Germans trying their best to rebuild, but that their efforts are kind of in vain right now. They have nothing left. They really have nothing. At least nothing that can even fight back. Ooh. Battleship artillery called in to try and fend off the American tanks, but again, that does nothing. Machine guns trying to push up right now. Infantry are pushing him back even harder. Ronson going to town, absolutely killing everybody on that side. That HQ is most definitely killed. Meanwhile, over here, I'm surprised these things haven't fallen sooner. The Americans are taking their time. Just. Ugh. Oh, but there goes one HQ. Well, how long will it take the Americans to kill the second one? They've dropped in even more artillery. Oh my goodness. Everything is just craters. The Calliope I hear. Oh, Germans still calling in as much infantry as possible, but nothing that can deal with the tanks right now. Absolutely nothing is that the Germans calling in are able to do anything against American armor right now. And American armor is what's absolutely steamrolling these guys. Oh, the Germans are trying their best right now, but to no avail. I believe that is going to be the first match. Well, the first round in the. Uh, yes. This is gonna be the first match goes to the Americans. First match of the round goes to the Americans here. Yeah, no, everything. Yeah, oh God, this is an absolute slaughter. What are the Germans supposed to do? I mean, I would have just spammed rat kittens, but it's the AI. I'm not the one in control. Look at this armor. Jesus. Ooh, last player left. American tanks are moving into position to finish it off. Ooh, that's it. This is GG. First match, Americans win. And with that, intermission as we swap sides. So, a quick breakdown of that match. Americans were being pushed back, but as soon as they got armor, they absolutely steamrolled the Germans. The Germans couldn't do jack shit. The Germans just did not have enough anti-tank weaponry for the amount of armor that the Americans were packing. Was a shame as well. Surprisingly enough, the Germans did more damage to the Americans than the Americans did to the Germans. But that's most likely due to the tanks having a lot more health than the infantry. So if we take a look at some army values, oh, we see the Germans just absolutely plummet near the end. My god. And the Americans just stayed up top. Once again, the Germans had a huge advantage early on, but then the Americans just absolutely snowballed out of control once they got their vehicle production going. My god. All right. Match number 2. With a quick side switch, let's begin. If you do not mind, I will be grabbing a snack real quick. Or rather, I'll just be snacking on stream. Let us begin. So, this time we are seeing the American side as they try to push in. Will we have the same outcome despite the side switch? Who knows? Let's find out. Americans a lot slower to start compared to the Germans. They are pushing out with NGs and Pathfinders. Not bad, but compared to the Germans last game, once again, Americans are a slower start. Pathfinder's leading the charge. They are way ahead of all the engineers right now. Meanwhile, the bot side has not been captured yet. A good chunk of the engineers are headed top and mid right now, with only like 1 or 2 squads headed towards the bot side at all. Pathfinder's seemingly going up to reinforce these engineers over here. The rear etchies. So, we have a massive force around just purely engineers around mid and top side. But not the Americans, the Germans have already taken mid, it seems, at least around the bot side. Americans have made it to middle, seemingly first. They've already engaged with some Jaegers. Ooh, but Hunter Fusiliers have made it as well. Fighting has already broken out heavily near top side. The Germans are being absolutely overwhelmed by the American numbers, but the same can be said around bot side. My goodness. Germans are now trying to push directly onto the midpoint. And they're decapping the munitions point right now. Will the Americans have any response to that? Oh my, incendiary breath shotgun team is trying their best to uncap uh and devalue German advances. Meanwhile, bot side still is lacking reinforcements by the Americans. Germans have managed to push onto mid, bot mid, but the Americans have a firm hold up top. Oh my, they just heavily outnumber the Germans. How will the Germans shred through all these engineers, all these bodies? Ooh, but the Americans are holding mid pretty well right now. But near top, an assault is going on right now. Americans are pushing in hard with this massive force of engineers and a couple rifles. The Germans just aren't prepared for this. My god. Germans are losing so much. The Americans, they've already flanked the Germans this hard. The Germans have lost like a good quarter of their forces to this American blob. And if they can take out this machine gun nest, they'll most likely have a very, very secure hold on mid. These guys are just none the wiser to this massive flank over here. Oh, but the Germans are trying a flank of their own. Perhaps trying to backcap in order to slow down the Americans. But stragglers are being picked off one by one by American reinforcements coming in. Not much that the Germans can do here. Ooh, but they do have a massive force over here. If they push up, they might be able to drive off the Americans right now, who are trying to repair their vehicles. Oh, and a German squad has made it to the back to try and uncap. But the Americans now have a presence at the bot side of the map. This massive push up top has distracted the Germans enough. Now the Americans are really stalling here, just trying to take out this singular machine gun nest. And that might be what kills them. That's certainly what killed reinforcements for that M15. Germans pushing in with light vehicles and a small amount of infantry trying to drive them off. But I don't think that's going to do much. They might have. Oh, yeah, no, there goes that vehicle. Americans are trying to undo the backcapping that the Germans have done by sending in their own small forces. But down bot, the Germans are trying to regain a bit of ground there. They have set up a defensive perimeter with Pantherms over here. Oh, and a flak tower as well. Americans will have to push through that. Over here, the former advance is now being whittled down. There's not much of it left. All the reinforcements have gone back. Americans are now spread out again. The Germans are forming a rather solid line over here, across, like just in front of mid. Will that be able to do much? Who knows? It will certainly slow down an American advance. Once again, the Germans are trying to backcap the Americans, but to no avail. The Americans have seemingly stationed a car there to drive off anybody behind them. Americans are setting up some more defenses over here. Just, just perhaps just stalling for more reinforcements to arrive. Most of them have just been absolutely slaughtered. The Americans do have a large force down here. Issue is this one flak tower and machine gun are preventing them from pushing up because they don't have heavier vehicles. That thing will absolutely shred any light vehicles there. But the Americans have mid relatively well defended with mortars. Mortars and artillery pieces. Germans are unable to push up, seemingly have entrenched themselves with their own defensive line. Americans have found a blind spot, or just an area outside of the range of these two, and they're currently just trying to force a fight. The Americans are calling in paratroopers, I believe. But that is no, that is not paratroopers. I stand corrected. Well, I probably dropped paratroopers back here somewhere, but that strike was not paras. Germans pushing up anti-armor down mid, trying to retake the munitions point that they had for a couple seconds. But Americans are holding them off fairly well. Most of the German forces seem to have migrated around mid and bottom now, but there's likely going to be a gap in the lines. Everything is being bolstered by zombies, though. My god, this might be able to rival the American spam. The question is, will the Americans be able to hold out long enough for them to get their vehicles in? Speaking of which, we already have a couple. They do have an Easy 8 and a Bulldozer Sherman. This will greatly help against the zombie hordes that the Germans have going. But will it be enough? That is the question. Ooh, that also one ran right into that Patriot defense system and has absolutely screwed itself. Americans are slowly picking off German vehicles. They do desperately need something to push mid, though. Unless they plan on pushing in top as a diversionary tactic. They might just be able to do that. My goodness. The zombies aren't really well equipped. All they got left are hiders to defend against the vehicles. Well, they can wipe out the zombie hordes. Then the Americans can just really take out top. Americans are pushed back hard mid. While they are dropping artillery, the Germans are replenishing them. Well, what is this calling that the Americans have got over here? More artillery? Yes, indeed. Down bot, it seems like the Americans are trying to make another offensive, but it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to break through unless they have even more artillery to soften up the targets. Meanwhile, the Germans have quite the presence on mid, with a couple stragglers near top. Americans can't send in anything due to these Raketenpanzer Ostwinds. This might just be the opposite of the last game situation. My goodness, the Germans have been able to coordinate their racks rather well this game. They actually focus down vehicles instead of infantry. Was this the lucky break they needed? But they are still running individual squads into American lines. The Americans need more vehicles to overrun all the Germans that are coming. My goodness. Did all three Germans go zombies? They honestly might have. Oof. But the Americans aren't, they just don't have enough vehicles to get through all these zombies. At least at the moment. Oh, there's another plane. Americans are relying way too much on air support. Especially with those Ostwinds up. Those Ostwinds have been the death of so many planes. But the Germans just keep on spamming them. My goodness. How many are they going to send? Meanwhile, on bot side, the Germans are absolutely pushing back the Americans. Another half track is sent up. I think that thing's going to be picked off. Oh my. The Americans just don't have enough armor here. This might be GG. This might just be GG. My goodness. That's the complete opposite of last game. This time, the Germans are absolutely overrunning the Americans, both infantry and Raketen Ostwinds. Americans just can't amass armor. Don't have enough anti-infantry for all the zombies either. Nor are they staring in artillery. I'm surprised the Americans haven't done that. Yeah, I'm okay. My goodness. This might just be GG. Yes, this might just be GG right here. Ooh, that poor major. The Americans aren't really grouping up anywhere either. They just have their forces spread out everywhere on the front line, and that front line is collapsing on them quick. Oh, they have started to group around here, perhaps. But that area is going to become the front line very soon. Oh my. Oh my goodness. It seems like all three Germans have gone zombies, which is not good for the Americans. Since I don't think they have access to the Ronson with what they're speccing into. Americans just out-teched, outmatched against these Germans. They don't have the right equipment. They are being mowed down so quickly. I hear a Patriot. No, that is not a Patriot. That is a Vulcan Sherman holding out. But it's not going to be able to hold out for much longer. My goodness. Oh, oh no, my game is not liking this. Americans calling in recon, but it's immediately shot down as the Germans just keep on spamming these Raketen Ostwind. And the Americans don't have enough anti-tank to deal with them. These zombies also seem upgraded. Either that or the Americans just aren't focusing them. Americans dropping something in over here. What will it be? Paratroopers. Oh my. Oh my. Americans have let Ostwind back into the back of their lines. And they are encircled hard. Well, not encircled, but they are fighting a bulge right now. Oh, God, the frame rate is so choppy right now. Holy. My game is not liking the way this battle is turning out. And it is killing my PC because of that. My goodness. Americans just absolutely getting demolished by the Germans. It's very one-sided right now. And the Americans just don't have enough fuel to call in more vehicles, I guess. They've lost too many of them. Balls of Steel just trying to build a bunker over here at the front line, directly in front of the Americans' faces. But it doesn't work. Americans might lose a Johnson there, and they do. Oh my. Counter-Strike is not very offensive right now. It's not very effective right now. There. Americans just trying to fix up their vehicles at the front. They have no time to retreat them. But I think they just die. Yeah, no, they're screwed. All the Americans got left are a couple vehicles and some infantry. I think this might be it. I think this is GG. My goodness. The Americans just have a stream of soldiers coming out. My PC is not liking this one bit. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Oh my. My graphics card is probably killing itself right now. Graphics card and CPU. That or the software is just very unstable. Most likely the latter, but my goodness. It's not liking this one bit. Oh boy, what a hit. The only Ronson that the Americans have called in immediately gunned down by the Raketen Oswins. What will the Americans do now other than just capitulate? Oh my. Oh my. Germans absolutely mopping up all the Americans in their way with those flame and soldatens. Everything is melting against them. There they go, but they've taken a good like 5 or 6 squads with them. When Hydra takes out one of the few remaining Shermans left in the American arsenal. Oh my, oh my. There's not much oh god. Lord, what a match. We have witnessed the reverse of what happened in match 1. Ooh, the Germans are starting to push into HQ, just outside of HQ now. Americans still have some paras out here trying to hold their own, but they are absolutely screwed. Ooh, and the Germans have called in a Jagdtiger. That's going to be it for the Americans here, honestly. None of their vehicles are safe. Germans just slowly pushing their way through the American hordes of infantry using artillery and just men as buffers to try and slow down American advances. And it's working. Have the Germans stolen that? I believe so. My goodness. Oh, these Raketen Austrians still can be vetted even higher. My goodness. As if they weren't already terrifying enough. Oh, there's fire everywhere. I can't tell what the hell's going on. Other than the Americans are trying to regroup, but my goodness, if well, the Americans are just dying everywhere. Oh boy, this thing's gonna fire. And it missed. A Kettenpanzer 4 managed to get veteran C4, but will it survive? That's the question. So it is kind of in the middle of enemy territory right now with no reinforcements. Oh, engine killed. Meanwhile, what's going on over here? All American infantry in that area are just dead. Kettenpanzer lost though. Oh, artillery being called in right on top of the Americans. Oh, but they are grouping up a lot right here again. This would be an amazing place for another artillery strike. Yeah, he's pushing in. What shall it do? Oh, it's turning. It's turning. Right on towards the Americans. Yag is pulling out. The Yag is now pulling out after firing a single shot. Oh, Hetzer's doing some heavy cleanup over here, wiping out everybody with its fire. Oh, now it's really doing damage to that pack howitzer, but it's being hit by AT guns. Oh, it might need to pull back. Hetzer might die here. Question is, will it take the pack howitzer with it? No. They have seemingly stolen an American AT gun. The zombies have stolen an AT gun. My goodness. They're bringing out Stoogs already. The Germans are taking quite a while to kill the Americans. The Americans just keep on sending in more men. Once it hits the 40-minute mark, I might just call it for the Germans. Because then we still have a tiebreaker round. Americans have seemingly just decided to bunker down pretty hard with artillery and AT at their base. But the Germans are. Ugh. Honestly, the Germans aren't really doing much. They're just kind of sitting outside pounding away. They're not going in to finish the job for some reason. I think I know why. All their population has now been invested inside of bunkers, flak towers, and panther terms. All their pop cap has just been stuck in those, and since the Americans have been unable to destroy them or break through this defensive line, the Germans have a lot less to work with when it comes to pushing through. Currently, the Germans are just kind of stuck trickling men in unless they can all assault from one side. But it seems like they have made a bit of a breakthrough here around the top side, but not the bot for some reason. Bot is holding him off pretty hard, but nonetheless, the Americans are taking very heavy casualties. Oh, already calling in the rear cheese. I don't think those guys are going to last very long. Oh boy. Oh, there goes the Vulcan gunners. Oh, You have massive German forces wave. Uh, we have just so many German forces just pooling in over here, grouping up. Have they finally managed to consolidate them? Everything is just being rounded up behind the singular Geschlachttiger. Meanwhile, this singular Hetzer just going ham. Something's pushing up. Ooh, over here, these guys have gotten themselves in a tricky situation, already being pinned down. But knowing zombies, it's just easier to let them die than to just keep on going through. I think I hear that just Geschlachttiger pushing up now. I'm surprised I'm not already dead. I should have been dead long ago. Oof, we already got another grenade assault. This one machine gun is pinning down this squad, though. They need to deal with this MG if they want to do anything against them. Over here, the Americans have started to rebuild again. Germans just can't seem to push into American territory, at least effectively. With what little resources the Americans are even getting, they're running low. That's a recon plane, but that thing's already shot down. And the Germans haven't pushed up with all their stuff yet either. They aren't committing. They just aren't committing. Over here, they finally broken through. The Germans have finally broken through. Ooh, what a blast. I think that was a cannon bomb. American force, they're finally able to break through to the Americans. Some sort of artillery is being called in, likely naval. But my god, that would probably be a waste of munitions right now, seeing how they are very overrun. Oh, there goes my base. They're finally starting to shell the American bases. And finally, they can end the game. How many more do the Americans want to lose to hold this one position? My goodness. They're trying to rebuild, but ugh, no avail. Everything is dying. All the base structures still need to be damaged, but other than that, everything is dying. Alright, I think I might just call it here. The Germans are taking way too long, and we still have one more match to go. Germans take the second match. And with that, tiebreaker. In order to speed things up, tiebreaker will be CP. A 250 point CP. If you have a look at the overview, the Germans just absolutely slaughtered the Americans. Holy shit. My goodness. This is one guy I was trying to capture, but my god, he lost everything. Alrighty. Last match of the night. We are changing from annihilation to victory points. A very short game of victory points to wrap up the match. Alright, let's begin the tiebreaker match. The very last match of the night. Let us see who wins. The Germans once again showing that they are way faster to push out compared to the Americans. They have already almost gotten to mid, whereas last times the Americans by now would just be barely able to get to this point. The Germans already pushing fast and hard, preemptively. But will that be enough? The final tiebreaker round is upon us. And it is the Germans who will make it to mid first, specifically around the top of the map. They'll also be trying to capture the fuel point. The Americans are nowhere to be seen. Actually, no, they are already at the bottom. Will the Germans encounter anybody around here? Usually they do. And there they are. My goodness. But the Germans do have an upper hand in close quarters combat early on due to those upgraded STGs. Those Pathfinders are getting absolutely shredded. The Americans will need a much larger force to push. Oh, and just as I say that, two squads of cavalry riflemen push in. Thompson's blazing. Oh, the storm officer is pushing in, pushing back the jeep even. And there it goes. My goodness. Americans have finally made it to the front line, are absolutely swarming the Germans. Germans haven't put enough defenses up top, so they're losing the top point now. Whatever early lead they had, they're throwing it. My goodness, the Americans have already taken bot. They're now fighting over mid. Top is a top is completely lost. The Germans just don't have enough men to react to this. I believe the Americans just called in some more paratroopers in the back to reinforce their front lines, but the Germans just aren't responding fast enough. They've lost their early advantage. Now they're going to have to slug it out for the points. Just like that. Oh, Jaeger squad is pushing up, but they may soon be flanked and killed. I do not know why they're pushing into close quarters combat with cavalry riflemen. Perhaps they'll be able to get a better shot in, but so will they. Oh, these Sturms over here just abusing their STGs, closing the gap, but they're still being mowed down by gunfire from all sides. They're gonna have to retreat soon enough. Germans have been able to push back the Americans up top, but is that enough? Down over here, the Americans have set up quite the presence. Oh, and they've already got an LVT up as well, just to deal with German infantry. Is this going to be a repeat of the first round? Perhaps. The Germans need to act fast. The Americans already have a massive advantage right now. Ooh, Germans just absolutely gassing the top point. Nobody's getting through that smoke without taking damage. It seems like they're also setting in well, they're preparing a force down bot as well. But what about middle? Middle just seems to be abandoned. Americans calling in more paras to maybe help. Well, over here, the Germans are absolutely slaughtering any Americans that get in the way. Every member of that gun crew has an upgraded STG, and those riflemen are feeling it. But they do manage to take out a Kubel before they have to retreat. Oh, now that Raketten can finally focus on vehicles now that it's been freed up. Germans have managed to take back the point, but they still need to hold off the Americans for quite some time. Speaking of which, a radio squad has managed to sneak into the back of this point, backcapping it, while trying to backcap it for the Americans. Here we, oh boy, Americans just pushing up with a ton of infantry. The Germans just don't have a response. The Zerkettens aren't very good against infantry. Ooh, that is quite the hit from a grenade. And there goes one of the Rakettens. Up here, the Germans have been losing ground to cavalry riflemen. Oh, they may have gone down, but they also forced the Germans back. Unlucky for this flamethrower tank. Its main gun immediately went down as soon as it was shot. Oof. The Americans they cannot use that thing for quite some time. here comes more paratroopers into the back line to bolster the front line. But over here, the German forces are really waning. Americans trying to secure some ground to fix up that Ronson. Currently, all it is a glorified 50 cal platform. I mean, it's doing its job pretty well at that, but it can't do its main purpose. Oh, over here we have a Sherman loaded with the HE, just absolutely preventing any Germans from pushing up and capturing anything on mid. The Americans have just absolutely overwhelmed the Germans once more. Germans just can't push back. The Americans just greatly outnumber the Germans at this point. They just can't do anything. We do have a large blob forming over here, a large coalition of Germans preparing to probably just push to top point. Oh, and they managed to take out the rack. But how will they deal with the LVT? They're pushing up, dealing with the cavalry riflemen. But how will they deal with any light armor that the Americans have? Oh, Germans have managed to somehow set up a panther term direct, like just barely behind the front line over here. And they are using its cover to cap these 2 points. But mid is secure, it's just securely held by the US forces. Like, how are the Germans going to get rid of them? Honestly, the only real way is just artillery, but the Germans just don't have that right now. They just don't have that much indirect fire. Got another squad of cavalry riflemen along with the LVT to try and take this command point. Ooh, another large push. Ronson's coming in from the flank seemingly. This squad is very out of position. So is this Sturmoffizier. He is probably dead. There he goes. Ronson just absolutely toasting everything now that his cannon is back up and fixed. The Germans might have been able to push the Americans off, actually. They are holding their ground once more. Raketenpanzer Ostwind is firing and doing a bit of damage to these heavy riflemen, or these heavy rangers, but it is taking a fair amount of damage from those rangers as well. Over here, though, is that yes, that is indeed a Jumbo. Jumbo is gonna be able to push back that Raketen, but Jumbo seems to be loaded with HE right now. It needs to change rounds. Back to mid. The American forces seem to be cleared out. Hedgerow is absolutely destroyed over here, which may or may not help out the Americans. Hetzer is now pushed up to the front, but it takes a heavy hit from a shit ton of Zukas and a recoilless rifle from that major. Oh boy. Ooh, but the Germans have cleared a bit of the hedgerow over here on their side. Americans absolutely demolishing the hedgerow and taking this entire bot side. Using that Ronson, the Panther term is not helping at all. It is dead. Artillery being called in directly on it a bit too late, but oh my goodness. Germans are pushing back, trying to push back onto mid. It is Well, they're trying their best at the very least, but it's not really doing much, at least when it comes to capping this point. They might be able to uncap this munitions point before the Americans realize and turn all this armor onto them. But speaking of which, here comes the armor. I think that is a 105 bulldozer. Yes, it is. Ooh. German do have their own long-range artillery up to try and scatter defenders. And here comes a small assault. There goes the small assault. Driven off by the two Shermans and a bit of fire from the rear echelon troops. The Americans have called in a P-47 strafing run to suppress anything and everything around mid. And they are just going to abuse that to just take the points once more. Vehicle crew has seemingly abandoned their Sherman on the front line completely. Perhaps this was the break that the Germans were waiting for. The P-47s are exiting the combat area. It's now or never for the Germans if they want to push. Jumbo attempting to push up, but it has to deal with a ton of anti-tank. Oh, P-47, one more has made it back into combat, and there it goes. Panzer is down. The Germans just don't have much anti-air anymore. The Americans just keep on calling in those strafing runs now all they want, unlike last match. Now armor and infantry are slowly overwhelming the Germans. They've just been whittled down so much. This is game. This is game for the Americans. Americans take the tiebreaker match. Quite the back and forth there. Americans won match 1, lost match 2, and then they managed to sweep it up for the tiebreaker. It seems like the problem with the Germans is, once again, they can't bring enough anti-armor for the Americans. Main reason why they won match 2 was because they prevented the Americans from even getting armor in the first place. But while that is loading, the Americans are moving on. This is gonna be the bracket for now. Next week, we will see the British forces versus the US forces. And the week after that, Wehrmacht versus Soviet Union before the finals. Good match overall, with a ton of artillery spam and my PC almost crashing. Next stream of this next week will probably be around Wednesday instead of Thursday. So, until then, I'm gonna wrap it up here. See you guys all next time.